Thank you all for attending. My name is Kevin Drolet. I'm the founder of Climate Hive, joining from San Francisco Climate Week, where I think there's over 70,000 people and 700 or so events here. And we're entering this conversation with a virtual event, bringing the globe into the conversation. But now I'm very pleased to introduce Mira Raval, who will guide our conversation today. Mira is the founder of the Meraki Power and Chief Content Officer at Climate Hive, where she leads efforts to elevate climate solutions through strategic storytelling, partnerships, and community engagement. She specializes in helping climate sustainability organizations build visibility that drives trust, investor confidence, and commercial growth. Mira is just an awesome person because I'm lucky I get to work with her. And through her work, including Climate Hive's Let's Talk Impact series, Mira creates platforms that amplify diverse voices and foster collaboration across the climate ecosystem. So thank you for moderating today, Mira, and I will turn it over to you.
Thanks so much, Kevin. This was such a kind intro, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So just a quick note before we get into it. We have got a great group here, so I'll try to keep the responses fairly tight, so that we can hear from everyone. And I may jump in here and there to, keep us moving. So, and also to our audience, please feel free to be interactive, like Kevin said. We have emoji reactions down there, so feel free to, use that or use the chat. Okay, I'm just gonna welcome our panelists today and just gonna go with like super short introductions. We have Wahid. He's the founder of Mycelium and he's working across climate innovation in Bangladesh. We have Joel, who is the co-founder of AgriLogic, and he is building IoT-driven agricultural systems in South Africa. We have Ajit. He is the founder of EcoSathi, and he's creating scalable plastic-free alternatives in India. Then we have Bhavna, who leads strategy and partnerships at Beetle Region, who is working across regenerative systems in India and Bangladesh. And then we have Kizito, who is the founder of Agribora and who is building financial infrastructure for farmers across Kenya. So I'm now going to move over to the panelists. Wahid, why don't we start with you? Why don't you do a short introduction and then we'll keep moving from there.
Thank you, Mira. Good morning, good afternoon. I know that there are participants joining from many part of the world. I'm currently based in Dhaka. Right now it's 9 p.m., but I feel absolutely energetic to join this session. My name is Wahid. I am the founder of Mycelium. Mycelium is an organization that works with across the different stakeholders in climate space, including youth, academics, private and public sectors. Our signature program is Climate Innovation Challenge. Through this program, we empower students and climate startups all around the world. We connect global south and north. Besides this, we also support climate startups in Bangladesh as well as globally. We provide services to Australian government on the education sectors, and we have done few other stuffs. And also, we are one of the hosts to this SF Climate Week program that you attended along with the Climate Hive. I'm so excited and looking forward to the amazing session. Over to you, Mira.
Kizito, why don't you go next?
Absolutely. Good evening from Kenya. Jambo. I'm Kizito. I'm the founder and CEO of Agribora. We are solving the challenge of post-harvest losses, which is at 40% of what smallholder farmers are producing never reaches the market. And for most of the smallholder farmers that we work with, they struggle with basically very poor prices at the end of the season when everyone is harvesting and the prices take a dip. And they end up doing what we call distress sale. So what we do at Agribora is basically building an ecosystem that enables smallholder farmers to hold on to their crops. We're talking about non-perishable grains, cereals, really what smallholder farmers are producing for the local market, and enabling them to use our structured warehousing ecosystem that is licensed to generate warehouse receipts that smallholder farmers can use as collateral. So you don't need to own land to go to the bank to get a credit. You need to just have your bag of maize stored in our warehouses, and we can enable you get access to finance and then link you to market. And our ambition is basically to make sure that we ensure food security in a climate resilient ecosystem across East Africa.
Thank you for that, Kizito. Ajit, would you like to go next?
Thanks, Mira, and thanks, Kevin, for giving us this opportunity to be able to speak on this San Francisco Climate Week. I'm really actually honored to be part of this session. And hi all, good morning and good evening from India. I am Ajit Kumar Palai, founder of a startup called EcoSathi. Basically, this is an initiative on sustainable consumer products. Everybody knows that pollution is increasing day by day, and we are trying to reduce both plastic and air pollution in this initiative. We are an impact driven venture. In this initiative, we are actually engaging local artisans, and we are going to engage local farmers as well, so as to make their lifestyle better. And obviously, we are fulfilling few sustainable development goals as far as our initiative is concerned. And till now, we have saved more than 50 tons of carbon dioxide emissions, and we have an aim of 1 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions to shape in the coming years. And we are fully committed to bring a sustainable lifestyle for our lovable consumers. So that's all from myself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ajit. Joe, why don't you share a little bit more about your work?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mira. It's Joel from AgriLogic. We're based in South Africa, right at the bottom of Africa. And we essentially like to say we're the left hand to farmers for protected cultivation through from seed to harvest. We've developed our own system for tracking and traceability, directly linked with automation, which enables transparency through the supply chain, helping farmers hold genetic suppliers accountable and giving consumers transparency throughout their produce life cycle. We have a large focus on resource efficiencies. Our systems are heavily engaged in energy solutions, water solutions, and chemical reduction solutions. And we've worked on a large variety of crops, mostly vine vegetables, cucumbers, peppers, tomatoes, lettuce, all the way through the berry side of the world, cherries, berries, blueberries, strawberries. We work on quite a few medical cannabis farms. We do a lot of propagation. We work a lot on enabling modern farming practices too. So we've got deep water culture systems working, NFT gutter systems, vertical farms. Of course, those are all still out for debate on return of investment. But I think one of my favorite projects, which we did in Namibia, which is on the west coast, was an escargot farm producing 600 tons of escargot per annum. So we get to work quite a lot, majority focused in sub-Saharan Africa, but our products have also been exported to Australia, New Zealand, and a bit in Europe and South America. Thanks, Mira.
Thank you, Joel. Really, really interesting. Bhavna, over to you.
Thanks, Mira. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure, first of all, to be here at the San Francisco Climate Week and for this amazing opportunity. Thank you to Kevin, Mira, and Wahid for this opportunity and to be amongst such amazing innovators here. My name is Bhavna Solanki. I have joined from Mumbai, India, and here I'm representing Beetle Region Solutions. It's a startup based in India where we are working on grounded innovation solutions for improving the soil quality via regenerative agriculture, by reducing via regenerative agriculture, we are also reducing pollution via preparing biochar. So converting the stubble burning, removing stubble burning by converting it into biochar, boosting farmer income via farmer credits, carbon credits, and also bringing circularity in agriculture. So these are the key aspects that Beetle Region is trying to work on. And here my work sits at the intersection of regenerative agriculture, climate finance, and carbon removal. With the farmer first approach, we work with 75,000 farmers across 3 different states in India. And we are supporting the transition to regenerative practices while enabling access to sustainable markets and carbon credits. We have an estimated carbon sequestration potential of 4 lakh plus carbon dioxide equivalent per year based on the regenerative practices that we are implementing. We have been able to reduce approximately 26% chemical usage amongst the farmers due to organic fertilizers that we are encouraging farmers to prepare and utilize on ground. And we are also increased 27% of farmers' annual income. This is through the regenerative Region Agri certified cotton and also through the reduced input cost because of the sustainable practices they are implementing. So yeah, this is about Beetle Region. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. And you know what? I would love to now get into the discussion a bit more. So I'm just gonna start with this question. Like how the global South is being hit the hardest, even without receiving a lot of support. And where have you seen real progress when it comes to communities who has the right resources and education? So whoever wants to go first can raise their hand and I'll go over to them.
Okay, I just raised hand.
Wait, yeah.
Okay, so interestingly, like the climate change and its impact is recently been discovered. Recently, that means like a couple of decades, the world actually come to a conclusion that it is real and it is happening. Before that, the industrial era and everything has been done by all global north. That means the global, the West countries. So they have done enough damage to the world, and it has been consequences we all have been facing. The global South economically is not sufficient to mitigate any of this problem or agenda. And also, like because of the different policies and the kind of a pressure it has been put to the global South, now we are also being deprived because we're not in the, like the playing ground is not fair enough. One end, you are expecting that we follow all the standard for producing or any economic activities focusing on the climate sustainability. On the other hand, you are not ready to pay extra for us. And on top of this, you have been in an upper position because you take the advantage 100 years back. One big impact, I always give an example, like I think it was in 2024 when Bangladesh has been hit by devastating flood, and it took away many part of the Bangladesh. It has been heavily affected. The farmers lost their lands, the businesses is gone, as well as schools and infrastructure is badly impacted. Already the infrastructure is not something on a standard. On top of this flood happened. Just after a few weeks, a super typhoon actually happened in Miami, and it destroyed the two cities. But the fact is, the US and that Miami has so much resources, they could fix it within a couple of months. And the place I'm talking about, Bangladesh, where I've been, that place is not fixed because we do not have the resources. There is corruption, there is system lackings. A lot of factors are there. The schools are not going to be the same for next 5-10 years. So that is the consequences the global South is facing. So I think the education is very big to empower young people. We need to encourage and educate young people. That is something our organization Mycelium has been doing. And also we need to make collaboration between or like shrink this bridge between the resources from global South and North as many as possible ways so that everyone can come up with effective ways to impact their local community, and that going to impact the entire world. So that's my thought.
That's an interesting take. Kizito, would you like to add to that?
Yes, sure. So I think looking at our ecosystem across East Africa, what I see is when we talk about climate solutions, there is a perception that these solutions are not picking up, they're not scaling as fast, specifically because I think there is a lot of pressure that comes from global north, particularly driving down the technology. And in my view, the technology is not really it's not the challenge. It's not the reason why these products are not picking up. I see it as basically looking at how they fit into the markets that they operate in, right? So we are in fragmented markets. So frugal innovation becomes a critical component of how we think about solving for the problems that we have. We cannot start selling satellite-derived metrics and think that farmers will pay 5 shillings or 10 shillings from their mobile money for climate-derived data that is coming from the latest satellite that was sent from to space from a global north company, right? It's about the usability of the advisory and the ability of that advisory to translate into actual immediate cash for them, right? So if you look at the space in the agriculture post-harvest ecosystem, you see a lot of climate finance going into green financing, supporting climate smart applications in fertilizer and so on. But the challenge is at the end of the day, when farmers don't store their crop because they have immediate cash needs. And they have these immediate cash needs because the way the products are developed are not for the markets that they're operating in. For example, you would expect a farmer to have a very clear balance sheet where they would be able to pay after 6 months of using the credit. But ultimately, the farmer would want to wait for the prices to stabilize after the harvest season. So a climate product that is not incentivizing farmers to hold on to their crop, they end up basically losing up to 40% if they decide to store it back home. And so we end up shooting ourselves on the foot, trying to advocate for climate adaptation and resilience, while at the same time, we are not building products that really fit the local markets, but are trying to basically underscore a global north narrative, and that doesn't work in this market from my perspective. Thank you.
Bhavna, a lot of what Kizito said also aligns with what you do. So I would love to get your take on that.
Yeah, definitely. It's similar in our context as well, because maybe I could tell in the form of a story that a farmer that I had met in the last season had planned everything as per the regular rains that would come, and regularly how the farmer would undergo their practices on ground. But then due to erratic rainfalls, now we see that it's raining at any point of the year. Recently, we had rains in March itself, and where the mangoes are the most important or very cash crops, which farmers are growing, and a lot of them lost a lot of their yield. And I even read news of some farmers committing suicide. So the impact of the drastic change in the climate, which is where the global south has committed really less in terms of the pollution or in terms of the emissions that has been done historically on this planet. The global south has committed really less, but then the impact has been really staggering, and it has impacted the poorest of the poor. It is the poor who face the worst impact of the climate change, and that is what we see on an everyday basis when we meet farmers. And that is why when we are trying to introduce some new interventions on ground, the farmers, the first question that they ask is that, will it impact my yield? Will I lose my yield for the year? How do I trust? Or will some insurance or something cover the loss that I may face because of new practice that seems to be sustainable, but he doesn't know what the impact would be. So yeah, it is similar response that we are also observing in India.
Joe, what do you think about that, from your perspective?
Yeah, I think globally, we, especially as Global South, we rely on exporting produce, or our farmers rely on exporting produce to really earn income, and the trade-off is the local food that gets supplies into the local markets. And what it's doing is, I mean, essentially we're exporting to the north, and that's putting the compliance pressures that an established economy would be able to handle onto an economy that's not incentivized to handle it. And so we end up needing to find ways to do more with less. But ultimately, if you compare it, as someone who works with farmers in the south and the north, there are incentives, there are grants, there are rebates, there are all these things in place for a farmer in the north to be able to meet these requirements, while in the south, it has to come out of the own private funding. And so it's just not a level playing field when you start comparing how do we work with each other. And I think that's why innovation really sort of strives in the south, because we've got to come up with innovative solutions to be able to meet these demands, to make ends meet, and be able to make an impact for the country and for the people.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joe. And talking about innovation, Ajit, I would love to know. I mean, like the other panelists said, that there are so many challenges, but I would love to know from your perspective that when you give the right resources and education to a community, what have you seen as real progress from your perspective?
I think actually, as far as the education is concerned, obviously, or research related activities. So first of all, let me actually add on to all those panelists what they have said, to add on few other things. Global actually, not the Western countries, they are producing lots of carbon dioxide emissions, right? But in global South, there are challenges. We know that we are actually trying to mitigate it. As far as our initiative is concerned, obviously, if you talk about what the people have told, that the crop production and the farmers are actually facing the challenges. But after the production, also we are working upon something from crop residue. So that also leads to so many challenges, so much of challenge to how to make the end product. Collaboration is a really good way to be able to actually stand in a position so that products will be invented and discovered in a good manner, and it can be market fit to the Indian market along with the international market as well. But to the point what you asked, the education research related activities, government of India right now is encouraging, has done a lot of things. If I talk about the research related aspects, but it is taking a bit of time. So many startups and SMEs are working on the projects to be able to what execute on the ground. We are also working on the grassroots level. But the most important thing is the financing part for deep tech and climate action startups, climate change startups. But for climate change startups, we need to actually gather that much of fund, because investors, what you like, investors tend to actually intend to have much of return out of it for a business. But for climate change startups or SMEs, investors should have the mindset for a long period of time. Let's say if they wanted actually that my return should be in 2 to 3 years, but for climate and deep tech startups, that should be a long period of time, like 5 to 7 years. Then we can actually do something better and make some innovative products which can be market fit through research related activities, R&D aspects from government of India, with collaboration with any international corporates or other government bodies from global north, right? So in that way, we can definitely be able to what avoid all those challenges.
Thank you so much, Ajit. And then back to you, Wahid. What do you think? Like Ajit talked about innovation, and he talked about financing and all of that. And things break down between some solution being built and then getting deployed. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, we have to agree on that the global south do not have a lot of resources. The thing we have to prove extra to get funding or other supported or even accepted by customers in our own region, because there is a colonial kind of a tendency in our part of the world is our own product is not that much superior if something is coming from global north or any Western country. So there is a barrier of mindset among the consumer, along with the investors. And I totally agree with Ajit that in climate as well as this sort of new innovation requires patience. Like you cannot expect that you invest and from 3 months you are getting your payback. It takes so much time. If it's so easy, everyone is going to do all part of the world. Everyone understand the consequences of climate change or the negative impact. For example, plastic. I'm also involved in the recycled plastic company. So every one of us understand how bad, how impactful plastic in our life, but no one is stop using it because it is very much essential. And the alternatives are so expensive or technically is not functional as like plastic yet. And that's why the transition never happened. That doesn't mean that you stop investing on that. That doesn't mean that the R&D and other sort of policy level support or other sort of support from the government or other institutions should be stopped because, oh, I've been investing you and last 6 months you can't show any financial or tangible progress. That means you stop. This is how it doesn't happen. But in the West, we have seen that they have patience. There is laboratory, and interestingly, another important thing is like how academic institutions play a big role on innovation. This is San Francisco Climate Week, and how the Stanford University actually one of the backbone to the San Francisco Silicon Valley ecosystem. That is also, I think, significantly missing in our part of the world because our universities are not that much open to collaborate with the industries. For the startup, it's so difficult. Even for large institutions, they found difficulties to collaborate with the university. So overall, I think we need better understanding, better support, and then we can expect that big change happen. But good news is, despite hundreds of barriers and these struggles, the global south is coming up some of the best ideas. The frugal innovation, which is like whatever resources we have, using that and make sure that it is impacting to the life. It is less costly and more effective. But think about we have more resources, more support. Thing could be different.
What about you, Joe? You work with adoption and farmers and solutions like that. What have you seen in your work that, aligns with some of the things Wahid said?
Yeah, Mira, so I think it was actually going to say a very short point, but as I was talking, I think some expansion has come in. But we actually work with a lot of farming R&D facilities, especially on biological solutions, whether it be a kelp biostimulant or a mycorrhiza fungi to help stimulate growth, or predator bugs. We do a lot of work with research institutes, private and government in South Africa, and everyone that I've engaged with, and we don't have a lot in South Africa, but I'd say we engaged with 60 to 70% of them in the last 5 years. Is they're working in isolation. They're working in a laboratory environment and not a farming environment or not a practical environment. And sort of Wahid said it with the plastic is like, this is an amazing idea, but it works in isolation, not in practice. There's no incentive. And so a lot of the work we've done is to change the way that the scientists are working, that they're working more like farmers. And they then start having open days showing them this is how we are farming, not this is how we're experimenting. And so farmers have started adopting it a lot easier because they can now relate and they can interact. And the barrier to adoption becomes less because you're assimilating and working with them. And I was just thinking, Kizito is the guy who will tell you our products that go to Kenya are very different to our products that go to Australia. It's not the same market. It doesn't have the same innovation needs. It's got different climate challenges. It's got different resource challenges, and each space is unique. So when you're developing a solution, you have to develop it for that market that understands it, that market's pain points, and similarly, Kizito's solution may not work in South Africa and definitely not in Australia. It would look different, but perhaps the core innovation stays the same. But to answer the question, the more you can relate to the end user, the easier they're going to adopt it, the lower you're going to make that barrier to entry.
Kizito, he did mention you, so if you want to continue that conversation.
Yeah, I'm definitely convinced that the core solution we provide finds its way across Africa, so not just Kenya. So I think one is the mindset that we need to have. We are the masters and mistresses of our own fate, right? So I think that's the core paradigm within which we entrepreneurs should work, that we are not waiting for the solution to come down from the global north to Kenya, but really we have most of the resources that we require to actually make things work. I think the struggle we have is the storytelling and where the finances go to. So, Ajit was talking about the financing component, and what I see is, sometimes we misunderstand the financing gap conversation, because it's not just that there is a lack of capital for innovations to scale, it's just the misalignment of where capital goes to. So what we see a lot is for these kind of innovations, at least for African ecosystems, a lot of the money that is going in is coming in tokens and piecemeals into grant pilots, right? What Joel is talking about, maybe in some ways a research component that doesn't really fit the market need. So it works well with a very small group of farmers or a very small group of consumers, but it just is not able to withstand the test of time in the market. So that's where we see a very strong misalignment, that the funding that is coming with the mandate of supporting climate innovations, be it in climate resilience or in other aspects of climate change, are more geared towards objectives that are misaligned with market systems. We actually know what would work best for our markets in Kenya, in East Africa, but you realize that the funding that is coming in, the whole theory of change around it, is coming from a very different perspective. I'm happy that I have over 15 investors from Europe that have invested in our company in Kenya. And when they were starting to invest in us, the questions they were asking were a very, very European, very German mindset. But then I said, you know what, guys, let's go down to Kenya. Let's have this conversation in the field. And all of a sudden, they had a very different perspective of, okay, now I understand why my question was quite weird when I was asking you when I was back in Frankfurt. But now in the field, I actually understand why it makes sense to invest in this and not that. So I think it's not that there is a lack of capital. It's just we need to tell our story much better, and we need to believe that we have the answers to our problems. And what I think we as African innovators, to be specific, are doing quite well, and this speaks to the challenges of adopting climate change solutions, is we are forced to solve for problems that don't really directly talk to our immediate core problem. And this is the struggle that you find most of the time, that it's okay, we are trying to create a market access solution, but the challenge is that we still need to look at infrastructure. There is limited cold storage solutions. So while you want to build a SaaS platform, you realize you also need to have an inventory and infrastructure that manages these commodities. And so you end up thinking about, what Wahid was saying about frugal innovation. Okay, so we have to think about 100 problems at the same time. How do we make this work, but from a market perspective and not a piloting perspective, because the luxury of time is what we do not have. Mira?
So true. And then I would go to Bhavna and ask her about, her experience, and how do you balance all these, these sustainable goals and then the economic reality of that? So if you would like to add to what Kizito was trying to say.
Right. Thank you, Mira. That was Joel and Kazido made some very interesting points. So, extending on to that, I would maybe look at it from the carbon project perspective, because that is what we are developing in India, and where we face a smallholder farmer paradox. Because and the average farm in India is 1 to 2 hectares farmland size in India. For a viable carbon project, for which the standards have been developed either in the US or in Europe, for a viable carbon project, 3,000 plus hectares is what minimum project size should be, which means we have to work with around 3,000 plus farmers for one project. Which means, on the contrary, in countries like England, with average landholding sizes 87 hectares per farmer, which means for one project to be viable, you have to work with 35 to 50 farmers max. So the gap defines everything. In most markets, scale is built into the system. So in India, scale has to be created by aligning thousands of smallholder farmers into a single verifiable project. Now, for these kind of projects to be verifiable, there are multiple data requirements which have been again set by the standards which have been developed in Europe and US in the West. Uh, while we are working with these developing regenerative agriculture farmer projects in India, the scale is around 5,000 hectares per uh, project. So, which means we need to have all the documentation in place for every single farmer, for all the whether it be land records, whether it be mapping each and every farmer's field via GIS. So, this GIS mapping itself, the farmland sizes are so small when we look at from the satellite angle, and ensuring that these are exactly in proportion with the with the land documents, with the requirements of the standards, and whether these farmers are fitting into the criteria required. So we have observed our project teams are largely often end up working on the data rather than actually going and working on the fields. So, whereas, because ultimately, what is important is adoption by the farmers, ensuring that the farmers adopt these regenerative practices. Now, again, it's not that these practices are totally new. They were being followed years ago, few decades ago, like intercropping, like cover cropping, less tillage, or all of these regenerative practices, they were being followed earlier. But of course, due to capitalism, due to interventions in different ways, these practices somehow were lost on the way. Now, what we are doing is we are promoting these regenerative practices by adding the scientific perspective to it. But the maximum data work that goes on, the work of working on these documentation requirements, because it is being set by somebody sitting in the global north, where they may not understand what the realities are in the global south, and because of which, while there is a lot of enthusiasm to work and to ensure that we achieve the climate goals set by the country by under Paris Agreement, or ensuring that we meet the NDCs. While we want to do all of that, these are the struggles we face on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, so I was just trying to give you a perspective from a day-to-day angle, how adhering to these these standard requirements um, gets difficult on a day-to-day basis.
Ajit, thank you so much, Bhavna. Ajit, would you like to add something to that from your perspective and India's perspective?
Coming to actually adding to Bhavna and Kizito, what Kizito actually has said, absolutely correct. But I think we must actually think in the perspective of both actually for the welfare of our human beings. We should actually work hand in hand, like global south and global north. They should, because as far as climate conference of parties is concerned, it is being held somewhere, but people are going through planes and via using so much of fuel, right? But actually, what are the consequences? At the end of the day, we are emitting carbon dioxides, right? But what are the alternative solutions? In India, if I talk about, then so many things are going on in terms of green hydrogen production or green ammonia or solar or any other things biomass based gas as well. But as far as our initiative is concerned, because we are into product based company, so we face challenges, how to train the local artisans, how to actually convince the farmer to provide us all those residues after crop is being produced. Once the crops are produced, we need to actually take all those residues. By the help of those residues, we are able to actually make some valuable end products. But in this time, actually, what happens? We need certain kind of partnership with good giants, corporates, or government bodies, or somebody from international market as well, right? From global north, that the product is good, it is very much qualitative, quality wise it is good, cost wise it is less. Also planning for a manufacturing hub in India, so as to actually place India as the what like power of global south, so that we can produce variety of products out of here. So it's a sustainable product based venture. We also think that yes, we can also do or contribute a bit towards the market as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ajit. And thank you everyone for, weighing in and telling everyone about the challenges the global south faces. One more question that I want to throw in here is, we talked a lot about the challenges, but I want to know, like, if there is an advantage that global south has and it's not being fully recognized. So if somebody would like to talk more about that, who would like to go first?
Yeah, so let me tell you one thing. India has declared that they will be using ethanol 85. So they will be reducing petrol usage by 20, in the coming years actually. So for the four wheelers. So it is very actually good approach by the government of India, right? So many innovations are being actually carried out in India as far as grassroots levels are concerned, or climate change, or any other domain as well. But we need to be patient in terms of this climate change initiatives. What in India underestimate, if we can say that there are so many advantages. I am coming from Odisha, Bhubaneswar, actually eastern part of India. What actually happens over here? There is much of renewable resources, mineral rich state in Odisha, and so many companies like South Korea company and a few other companies, they are coming up here to invest. So right now, green hydrogen setup, semiconductor, Intel CEO has actually invested in Odisha as well. So So many things are happening right now because Odisha is having plenty much availability of water and key resources. We can train the like let's say resources from semi-skilled to skilled resources. We can train them so as to actually get associated with these big giants. So I think a lot of good works are being done in India, and we hope that we can actually contribute and we can collaborate with the good industries and good giants from global north to be able to what set up our or make our products visible over there as well.
Thank you so much for that, Ajit. Wahid, what are your thoughts?
For me, it's like we often heard that the North will give us and we'll follow. It's not like that. Our organization is also working in the education sector, and we're educating global students. It's not just about Bangladeshi or global South student. We teach students from Ivy League University to the government of Australia, and through this education, we're also teaching them how with limited resources, different part of the world in the global south has been achieved so much. And most interestingly, like the global south youth are coming up with so many amazing things, like teenagers or youth are coming up with interesting sustainable business models or nonprofit models or community actions that actually inspire the global north further. And we see a lot of collaboration opportunities, like cross-cultural opportunities, and they share resources, knowledge, and experience. I think that is something, a big hope that the Global South has so much to offer. What it requires is like a good platform. So through that, they can share this knowledge and expertise to the rest of the world.
Thank you for your perspective. Wahid, what about you, Kizito? What is that one advantage that you see right now, which you think it's not being fully recognized?
I have two in mind, Mira. So one of them is from an African perspective, the fact that Africa is able to leapfrog some of these technology evolutions. If you think about the era of M-Pesa in Kenya and across East Africa, and how mobile money has actually changed how ecosystems, how communities and markets work. We're going paperless, and that's not since the digital era became a boom, but out of necessity in the early 2000s, M-Pesa became the cornerstone financing product. So if you look at many markets across Africa, which cannot be generalized, you see that we don't have legacy systems as you may see across the global north. So there is faster adoption of new innovations, new technologies. You have a growing market. So at the end of the day, you know that your innovation can actually scale, and also scale quite fast because you're building decentralized infrastructure. It's not held at one place. You have the struggle of working at 54 plus different countries and regulations. So but at the same time, you just have a really big market, and it's not about trying to export products out of Africa to Europe, so on. It's really about building local regional markets across Africa. If you think about the Africa Free Continental Trade Area, right? Really trying to harness, and that is really the bottom line. Climate change, it is a global problem, but we need local solutions. And if you just think about an African market, it is a sufficient market for us to be able to look at how do these technologies and solutions help solve for these local activities, right? And the second point that I wanted to bring across is the inherent nature of innovation in these markets requiring system level thinking. So it's not enough to come up with an app and think that, okay, I've built this marketplace and people will come and this is where it will all happen. You really need to think about the infrastructure that makes sense for it. I mean, we take the burn for it. If you look at the global financing market, if you just look at the VC market, Africa is just taking less than 2% of the global VC capital available. Now, you might think that there is no market, but there is a market. It's just that the story we are telling is suited for VCs that understand this local context. And so this system level thinking is, I think, something that will strengthen the ability of actually Africa to scale very fast, because from the very beginning we have had a systems thinking approach. So by the time 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line, our innovations have been set up in frugal contexts, but now are able to scale much faster because we've been having this kind of system design. And in other markets outside of Africa or in Europe, for example, you see that there is a lot of separation, right? So a lot of separation leading to a lot of bureaucracies. So you are less efficient in how you can actually be able to scale and grow your innovation compared to how we see that in these markets in the global south.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that, Kizito. And then I would actually go to Joel for, some of his thoughts on this. What do you think, Joel?
Yeah, I think it's slightly different to the guys before, but I think because we're less constrained in our markets, the flexibility for us to innovate is much greater than those in sort of global north that are much more regimented. It allows us to try and test things a lot quicker. A lot of the principles are trusted but verifiable. So we're trusted to deploy the right things and knowing that they can be verified. So I think there is a challenge in lots of small markets, as Kizito pointed out. Bringing them together to make a holistic market is what makes sense. But the diversity across that forces you to understand holistically, and solutions that you develop across that can apply anywhere in the world because of that variation that we have, and that flexibility and the ability to be able to work within those spaces and the free trade spaces is, I think, a big advantage, because you can then really build for any situation. So I do believe our real superpower is that ability to adapt, overcome, and be flexible to the needs of the various spaces.
As much as I would love to continue this conversation, we would have to wrap up because we have the workshop coming up. So just a couple notes. We have the questionnaire, the feedback form that Kevin just posted in the chat. So if you guys can just, go ahead and fill that out to our audience, that would be great. We would love to hear your thoughts and feedback. And then, of course, we'll move to a smaller breakout group from here. So just letting everyone know. Again, this was a great conversation. So thank you to all our panelists, and I hope you can also join us in the breakout rooms.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks to the panelists. So we have put a separate link in the chat. We're moving from webinar, we're going to move to more meeting format, and then we'll have breakout rooms to continue this conversation, and hopefully try to do some problem solving also, and come out of our workshop discussion the next hour with some takeaways. And then there'll be some networking opportunities. Obviously, attendees haven't been able to engage with each other, so we want to encourage that as part of the spirit of Climate Week, and bringing the globe to San Francisco Climate Week. So thank you, Mira. Thank you so much to all of our panelists. I think it was a very rich discussion. Really appreciate everybody coming and hanging out. We had a great group and lots of people hung out. So if you have questions, come to the next session. You'll be able to engage those questions. And of course, feel free to contact any of the panelists if you'd like to invest in their enterprises, if you'd like to support them. We absolutely encourage that. Reach out to these amazing companies that are doing awesome work, and Yeah, thank you very much for coming today. So
Have a great day, everyone. See ya.
Thank you so much.